This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Yes.
Right.
So I started earlier that this is the agenda of this training or mentoring program. So, and the objective is that for a lot of you who are at the beginning, maybe intermediate or no skill level of IT, that you'll be able to upskill your skills, you'll be able to start the process of at least within IT, some of these fundamentals, and I could guide you through on how you could make progress depending on what area of IT you want to specialize. But whatever form of IT you do, these are the pretty basics you need. And if you want to even fit into a role, after this training, having practice and done extensive learning on this, even further study, you should be able to fit into an IT support role in an organization, because this is what IT support does every day. So we started with introduction to networks. Yeah, our world today has become a connected network. So we have the internet that everybody from the market woman down to the banker to everybody is either having a social media account or they are just surfing the internet. So the internet exists, the internet is part of us, and the internet is built on networks. So able to explain what a network is, says a connection between two or more devices to share resources. And we're able to look at what were the forms or types of networks. So we looked at VPN, LAN, VLAN, WAN. So we looked at all of those forms of networks. We look at network topologies like the star topology, the bus topology, the ring topology, the mesh topology. And we also look at elements of the networks like the router, the switch, the hub, the repeater. We looked at all of these things that can make up a network. That was what we did in Module 1. When we went further to Module 2, we looked at the OSI model and TCP/IP model, and we're able to extensively look at the OSI model, the 7 layers of the OSI model, and explain from layer 1 to layer 7. And I remember giving a reminder, something you can use to remind it. All people seems to need data processing. All for application, people for presentation, SIM for session, need for network, seems to tool for transport, need for network, data for data link, processing for physical. So that's the 7 layers of the OSI model. And we went further to look at the TCP/IP model, or what we call the DoD model, the TCP/IP suite. We looked at what were the similarities and differences between OSI model and the TCP/IP model. We went into introduction into routing. We looked at what routing is. We looked at forms of routing, dynamic routing, static routing. We went into dynamic routing in terms of protocols, interior gateway protocols, IGP, exterior gateway protocols. We looked down the classifications of all the networking protocols that you have under routing. Then we also went further to switching. We talked about what is switch operates at layer 2. We talked about frame, the functions of a switch in terms of address learning, forward and filter decisions. We spoke about STP, which is used to avoid loop avoidance, which is one of the functions of a switch. So, and we went to IP addressing and subnetting. IP addressing, subnetting. And because IP addressing and subnetting is more mathematical and you need a board, I gave a video that extensively explained with simplicity how to do IP addressing and subnetting. So it's a reference guide that you can always go through time and time over for you to refresh your memory, or for you to learn about IP addressing. Learn the binary mathematics, learn the host bits, the network bits, and be able to do it, because IP addressing and subnetting is very, very fundamental and very, very core networking. So we also looked at introduction to operating systems, and we looked at operating system is very important, very cardinal to IT. Operating system runs on your phone. Typically, any device you communicate with has one form of operating system or the other. So we looked at the major one on the PC arena, on the PC market space. We looked at Windows operating system, Mac OS operating system. We looked at the Linux. Just the way in the mobile sphere, you have the Android operating system, you have the iOS operating system, you have a whole lot of uncommon, with not popular operating system that run within the mobile device space. Yeah, so we also looked at Windows basics. What are some of the tools? What are some of the networking tools that you can find in Windows? We looked at the Windows command control panel. We looked at the command prompt. We looked at, okay, we also did some hands-on on the command prompt, some hands-on on Windows. On the Linux, Unix, OS basics, we looked at the Linux terminal or shell. We looked at the Linux networking tools. We also did a bit of hands-on. I walked you through on how to install Ubuntu operating system, Ubuntu Linux. I also did walk you through some of the basics on how to create a file, how to remove a file, how to copy a file, how to make a folder or directory, how to change directory. So the fourth module was on Active Directory. So, but I had to include computer hardware and software because hardware is very important, also software. So, and we're able to explain what hardware is, which is something tangible, something you can see, something you can feel. That's those components that you can feel, you can touch are the hardware. Then the software talks about a set of instructions that tells the computer what to do. So, and we'll be able to dissect the types of software, application software, system software. We give examples of that. Now, we went to a basic operating system troubleshooting and be able to establish that you identifying a problem on the system is to be able to say if it is a hardware problem or a software problem. If it is a hardware problem, most likely you might need to replace it or have a clean it or blow it. But if it is a software, you might need to uninstall, you might need to reconfigure the software, or you might need to, worst case, format the operating system. So these are basic just to rectify, more like repair the system. And we looked at installation and customization of the Windows OS. We installed a Windows 10. And I walked you through on how to do that installation. So that's more on the topics we covered in this mentoring program for November, December. Now, by the side, we had a bank here called Ethnos Bank, and we're able to build a network topology for Ethnos Bank. Ethnos Bank being a new bank that has been given license, that has been commissioned a commercial license to operate. Now, they meet you and I as the network engineers or administrators for Ethnos Bank, and they want you to design a network for them. And they intend having a branch in Abuja, a branch in Port Harcourt, and the headquarters, which is in Lagos. So, and we were to build a network for them. So, and this was the network that we drew for them. So we said in Abuja, these were the devices that will be present in Abuja. We said in Port Harcourt, these are the devices that will be present in Port Harcourt. And in Lagos, these will be the devices. And in the server farm, where you have mission critical applications like the AD, the file server, the web server are located. We're also able to add IP details to them to help our configuration. And in this hands-on project, we're able to configure or learn the basic Cisco IOS config. We configure the routers and the switches with a host name, with an enable password, an enable secret, with line console password, with VTY password. Yes, and We configured a DHCP server on the switch that was dissipating or that was dishing out IP addresses to each of the branches. So we're also able to configure an access point, yeah, so that users within the branch could connect to. And we gave them different SSIDs, different wireless network name, so that they could connect to. And with the DHCP, they all got IP dynamically. So we did this and we were able to establish that Abuja users were able to reach the server farm. They were also able to reach the LAN in Lagos, and Port Harcourt could also do the same. They could reach the server farm to access the banking applications. And they were also able to access the LAN. So, and we're able to do that using static routing. We achieved that result. And we also tried that using dynamic routing. And in our lab, we use EIGRP. You could use RIP, you could use OSPF, you could use ISIS. So those are options that you have for this lab. So that was the hands-on we did. Now, and that was for the network. So for the Linux, we installed Ubuntu, and we ran through the installation of the Ubuntu as the setting up in Linux, and we did hands-on there. For the Active Directory, we had Windows Server 2012, where we enabled Active Directory roles, and we created a domain which is ethnosbank.com. We created users for that domain, and we had two PCs, one in finance and the other in HR. And we were able to add those two systems to the domain, and we could see that without provisioning the users on the individual systems, we were able to log in there to those systems because the users were already provisioned on the Active Directory. So that's a summary of what we've done, what we've covered, based on the hands-on and also on the theoretical part of the lectures. So now it's time for questions. Now it's time, if there's anywhere you are not clear with or any concept which we treated that you are not comfortable with, now is the time that we could go over it again. So the floor is open.
That Active Directory part, that's where I get issue.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Same here, the Active Directory as well.
Another person.
Yeah.
So,
Sir,
hello.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we also have issues with that Active Directory.
I didn't get you. I didn't get you. Hello. Okay. So since everyone is talking about the Active Directory, so we'll go around the Active Directory. And since I have a snapshot, I don't know if I did for the last time, so that you could just repeat the lab. So is it the theoretical part or is the lab you didn't get? Let me know where to focus. Hello.
Personally, I think I understand the concept of Active Directory. So where
Okay.
I'm kind of lost is the lab part, the practical aspect.
Yeah, for me too, the lab part.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Let me bring up my virtual box. Okay, so this is my virtual box. Let me see if I can revert. Okay, maybe what I'll do is I'll remove these PCs from domain so that I would So I just want to revert to fresh so that I'll start all over again. And I can walk you through. So I'll remove the PCs from domain. Then I will, I did a snapshot for the Windows. So I'll just do a restore. So the beauty of snapshots is that you can revert. Apparently I didn't do a snapshot of this. So that is, let's start. Okay, my Windows Server 2012 is up. I will be sharing a questionnaire with you. I'll share it on the WhatsApp and also share it here that I want you to fill for your feedback. Okay. So I think the major thing is setting up the Active Directory. Okay, still on Ethnos Bank. Let me check if this is on domain. Okay, this one has come back to. Okay. 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 So can you see my screen? Hello.
Yes, I can see
Hello,
your screen.
sir.
Okay, so I want to start. I want to start all over again. So this is. Just give me a second.
All right.
This conference will now be recorded.
Setup. So whatever it is we do here can apply to Windows Server 2016, 2019. So it's still the same process. So when you've installed the Windows Server 2012, you get this page automatically. And it automatically gives you a system generated name. As you can see here, Win NAJT 7AD511. So that's the name it generates. So typically in production environments, like enterprise environment, what they do, they change the name to a name that they are comfortable with. So you can call it AD or any name, but just to signify the server. So when you get to most enterprises, they have a naming convention for their PC and their servers. So they change the name and it will require them here to restart. So that's the first thing, because the system name is an identifier. So on the network, just the way in your family you have a name identifying you. So also in the Active Directory, there's a name for each PC. So, and you want that name to be as descriptive as possible, so that you would know when you find the system anywhere on the domain, you will know which system that system is. So I'm changing the name to AD. So when I restart, it will affect the name change. But this doesn't affect the setting up of Active Directory domain services. It's just for naming purposes, just for me to be able to identify that this is the AD, and I'll be able to identify other systems as maybe finance system, HR systems. So let me log in. Okay, so this is the page. So this local server, which comes up automatically if you start up a Windows server, it brings up this page. So what I'll do is I will go to add roles. That's the first step to building an Active Directory service. I start add roles. Then it brings up a wizard. So this wizard helps you install roles, services, and features. Then I'll do next. Then either I want to set up a role-based or feature-based installation, or a remote desktop services installation. I am doing a role-based, so I do a next. Now select server from the server pool. Now see the name of the server. This is the IP address of the server, and this is the operating system. In some instances, the servers can be clustered. When you mean clustered, means that the servers, you have multiple servers acting as one. For some of you who must have been seen production environments, you understand what clustering is. But in this regard, it is just a standalone server, just one server, and it is highlighted here. So I'll do a next. Now, it tells me server rules. You see Active Directory certificate services, Active Directory domain services, Active Directory federation services, Active Directory lightweight directory services, rights management services, DNS server, DHCP server. But in these regards, we are doing Active Directory domain services. Once I click it, it brings up this. So these are sub tools that are attached to that. So I just do add features or features. So it's ticked. If I want this server to also be a DHCP server, I can tick it. If I want it to be a DHCP, I can tick it. There are also other services. If I want to host it as a web server, I can tick this. So that's what some of the features you have. Get. But the Active Directory uses DNS by default, so it will also make it a DNS server to work with the Active Directory. So I tick this. It says Active Directory stores information about objects on the network and makes this information available to users and network administrator. So I do a next. Now it asks for features. I will leave these things default. So there are many features here, telnet, SMB, but none of them is my concern here. It's just the server rule I'm concerned about. Then I'll click next. So Active Directory domain services. This is a bit description to it. So now it says it requires a DNS server to be installed on the network, as I explained earlier. Okay, so now these are all that it will install or it will enable. So these are they are just to install. Then it starts the installation. So we'll wait for the installation. It will install all of these tools and enable the server rules on the AD. So let's wait for it to complete. So it has completed the installation. Configuration required, installation needed on 8E. Installation succeeded, so it succeeded. So I'll do a close. Now, when I do a close, nothing seems to happen. Then it brings a caution here, post deployment configuration. Post deployment is after deploying this Active Directory domain services. I need to promote this server to a domain controller. So I'll click promote this server to a domain controller. I had to wait for you to click here. Initially, when it completed, the promote to domain controller was there, but it's on all the versions, you will get this prompt here. So now you see, select the deployment operation. Now, what I'm doing here is configuring this particular server as my domain controller. Add a domain controller to an existing domain. Do we have an existing domain? No. Add a new domain to an existing forest. Do we have any existing forest? No. Add a new forest. Yes. Now, what is the root domain? ethnosbank.com. This will be my root domain name. Next. Yeah, so I'll leave this as default. You can see that it will need to enable a DNS server. So, but it will ask me for a password here. So I'll put in my domain, my administrator password. Okay, so I'll do a next. Yeah, so I can leave this as default. Next. So it's asking for, okay, let it load. So NetBIOS domain name. So Ethnos Bank, I can modify it as however I want. So, but I want it in caps. So I can just say Ethnos, however I want it, but that's the domain name everybody will carry. So I do a next in terms of NetBIOS. So I'll leave this as default. I'll do a next. Then, so it gives me a summary. So this is the NetBIOS name. This is the domain Ethnos Bank. And I'll do a next to check website. So I'll do a install. So wait for it while it configures. So it's asking me to sign out. The computer is being restarted because Active Domain Services was installed or removed. Close, close. So it will restart it. So thus far, is there any gray areas on this wizard or this installation?
No, it's clear now.
Okay, okay, thank you, Jide. Any other person? You have any gray area? Okay, so I will send, I hope to send this iOS ISO version of Windows Server 2012. But if you have, you can try it out. So the beauty of doing hands-on by yourself is that you become confident or comfortable doing it. It's just a wizard. I'm not getting a software from somewhere or from the internet. It's just a click, next, install, and you have it up. So, and the beauty of learning how to build things is that when they break, you can easily fix them. So if you were part of the team that built a network, whenever that network has issue, you are at a much more advantageous position to resolve it because you know how each part fits together. So it's coming up. Okay, so it's done. I impute. Yeah, so you see it's already on the domain. So log in. Okay, so see that it's up here. Still loading. So you can see the AD service is up. You see the DNS is also up. So my Active Directory is fine. The next task you and I will need to do is to create users. So Active Directory, users and computers. So this is the domain we created. These are the computers, there no computer, users. So when we go to users, these are the pre-installed users. You can see them. Administrator, which is what I'm using to log in. You have clonable domain controllers, DNS admin, domain admins, domain computers. All of these are user. Okay, these ones are security groups of users. Again, these are users, user, administrator, guests. Then these other ones are security groups. So you could create users and add them to DNS admin, add them to enterprise admin or domain users, which is the global. But what we'll be doing here is just to create users because it's pretty basic. So we create a new user. What's the name of this user? Okay, let's call him Samuel. It's his first name. Any initial? No. Surname is Modupe. So what will be the logon name? Depending on your email. So usually in most corporate organizations, you find emails like this at Ethnos Bank or any bank that you or organization you belong to. So I'm using first name dot Samuel.modupe. So this is the user account. I do a next. So ask me for password. So this password I configure here is bound for change on next logon. So some people or domain admins, what they do, they just put a simple password like open or the name of the company, so that when the user is logging in next time, the user would be asked to change their password. Okay, next. Finish. So minimum, the password I used was pretty simple, which was open. So I'll use a complex password. Okay, finish. So Samuel has been added. So let me add another user. So which user will I add to this? Let me add Jacob Chimda. So first name first name is Chimda. Last name is Jacob. So Chimda Jacob. So his email is chinda.jacob@ethnosbank.com. Next, I'll put a password here. A complex password. So Chimda.jacob is the user. So I have two users here. Maybe if I go to properties, I can see all the details about it. Again, I can choose to put his phone number, his email, web page, his house address, PO box. These are all the details about Chimda Jacob. It's about his profile, phone, organization, so many details if I want to put about Chimda. So Chimda is a member of the domain users. I can add into administrators. If I do it, check, see administrators, I can add him to DNS admin. So I can add him to any group. So in an organization where you have a lot of people and you want to elevate somebody from a regular user to an admin, you can make him a domain admin, a DNS admin, an enterprise admin, a guest user. So whatever group you create. And you know, one thing with groupings is that you can enforce policies on those groups, and everybody under that group will inherit that properties, those policies. So two users, Samuel Modupe and Chimda Jacob. So far, any question or any areas that you're not clear with?
I'm following so far.
Okay. What about others? Any area you're not clear with? Joshua, and who else haven't spoken? Jeremiah, are you good?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I think with this we are good to go. Please remember to send the info of the executive, like you said.
Yeah,
So
you get tomorrow. You get the video for yesterday and today. This video.
and if that's all you have for 2016.
2016. Okay, if I am able to get the 2016 or 2019.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, so we'll make progress. So as it stands, we are done with the domain, Active Directory domain configuration. So we are good to go here. Now, when you set up this for Ethnos Bank, it sits in the server farm. Now you have users in Abuja, you have users in Port Harcourt, users in Lagos, all wanting to connect to this Active Directory in the server farm. It means that all of those systems, you need to add them to this domain. So here we have two PCs. The one that is already added, I'll remove it from the domain. I'll remove it from the domain. So this one is on domain. I hope I remember the password. Okay, remember that this guy is no longer here. So I think it was user I used. I want to log into the normal local admin. What did I use here? Okay, so this guy is already on the domain. So remember that we just created Chimda. So I will teach you how to add a system to the domain, but this system is already on the domain. So Chimda Jacob is a new user. Then I'll put the password. Password must be changed before signing in, okay? Chimda changes his password. Password has been changed. The database on this server does not have a computer workstation, okay? Let me, I reconfigured the domain. So it's still searching for the previous one. Okay, let me just use the other one since this one is giving big issues. So this one is not on domain. As you can see, look at the work group. So I'll add this to domain, change. I go to system change. I would like to have a name that is okay, I don't know if you're with me.
Yes, very much with you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say staff one. In which department do we put this guy? Let's say admin. This is the name of the PC. Let's say staff one admin. This is the PC. Then we will now put a domain name. The domain name is ethnosbank.com. Then I'll just do it OK. It's going to ask me for a could not be contacted. Okay, let me see. Because for you to add to the domain, you should be able to ping the Active Directory. Okay, let me see if I can ping ethnosbank.com. Okay, so I know what the problem is. The DNS. Remember, we had to configure the Active Directory as a DNS. So in most organizations, they add the Active Directory as part of the DNS, or their local DNS server has the Active Directory record. I hope you understand what I mean.
No, I didn't get that.
Okay, see the magic. Initially, when I pinged Ethnos Bank, it said ping request could not find host ethnosbank.com. Remember the concept of DNS. DNS is a mapping of IP addressing to a URL.
Yeah.
So for me to add this guy to the domain, I need to put the domain name, which is ethnosbank.com. And this system on the back end, we want to reach ethnosbank.com. So it will go to this DNS settings here, the DNS that was configured on the system, and see if it can fetch ethnosbank.com. So what I did here was to statically put this as the DNS system, put the Active Directory as the DNS, because the Active Directory is also doing DNS service. I don't know if you get me.
Yes, I get it.
So if I'm going to ethnosbank.com, it will query the Active Directory that who is ethnosbank.com. Then the Active Directory will now say, I am ethnosbank.com, and reply with this IP. Then it will now ping this IP. That's why I can ping ethnosbank.com here.
Yeah, I carry it out. I get it now.
Okay. So let me close this path. So where was I adding? So let me add again. Change settings. Okay, here. So ethnosbank.com. Initially it didn't go because it couldn't resolve. But if I do an OK now, because it can reach ethnosbank.com, which is the Active Directory, it asks me enter the name and password of an account with permission to join the domain. So to join a domain, you need an account with admin privileges. So I already have an account there. I do an OK. It will tell me welcome to ethnosbank.com domain. You can see it. So I have added this system to ethnosbank.com domain. So I do an OK. It asks me, you must restart your computer to apply these changes. OK. And I will close to do a restart now. So you can see that the computer name has changed, and this is the work group. It has changed from default work group to ethnosbank.com. So I do a restart. Okay, so this default user, but I want to log into the domain. So let's try chinda.jacob. I'll put the password that was given to me. Ask me password, okay, incorrect. Seems I'm typing the password wrongly. Okay, no issues. I can go back to this Active Directory domain and change the password again. The password I used, seems I've forgotten it. So Chinda, right click, reset password. Okay, password has been changed for Chinda. So So user's password must be changed. Okay, it said it does not meet, so I'll put the old password. I'll use a more complex password. I need to use a more complex password. The password settings here. Okay, I'm typing the wrong one. Okay. Okay, so I've changed the password. Password has been changed. Chimda Jacob is logging in. So remember, I did not provision Chimda Jacob on this system. Hello?
Still with
Yes, we are here.
Yeah, so Chimda Jacob has logged in. So the reason why I was having issues was that the password I set was different. So that's why the domain administrator can disable people's accounts, can reset people's password, can do a lot of things. So that's why domain administrators are like gods on a network. So that's it. So you can see it has booted, Chimda Jacob. I did change account settings. You see it's in Ethnos. Yeah, so I think that makes it clear for you. I think everyone is clear on how to how to configure an Active Directory domain and how to add a system and configure users on the domain. Any other question? Okay, it seems there's none.